And welcome to Recovery Report Live. I'm Dan Odess, President and CEO of GlobalPro, here to provide you incredible information about the history and the science of hail. I say the history because we want to focus on insurance history as it relates to actual hail claims, storm claims that many of our clients in Texas area as well as Florida deal with on a regular basis. But if you're in any part of the country and you're tuning in to watch this live, you will know, and if you've been impacted by it, the hail process can be tricky. It can be interesting in that there is a lot of science that goes into it. Whether or not hail can cause damage, whether or not it can cause problems for your claims process is up to you, and the way in which you document and present your claim and damages, but also the conditions of your property prior to the storm, the way in which your insurance company responds to the disaster, the situation, the timing of those inspections relevant to prior storms, and repairs that you may have made in for as it relates to prior issues that you might have had to your property. So I want to take a deep dive into it. A lot of people talk about hail in different ways, right? They talk about the golf ball size hail. We even had tennis ball size hail, basketball, whatever it may be. There's different types of size of hail, and it's really important to know that the different sizes of hail relative to your property and the types of damages that you may see may be a condition not only just because of the size of it, but also the conditions of the actual storm itself, and something that we find insurance company adjusters as well as experts try to ignore. They simply want to focus on the size of it, rather, the golf ball versus the tennis ball. And we want to make sure that you understand that it's not all about the size of the actual hail itself, but it may be the size of the storm, the winds that the changes in direction of the wind speeds that are forcing, whether it's a golf ball size or smaller or something is tennis ball. Obviously, something tennis ball falling on your roof, hitting it, causing damages, obviously going to create a lot more damage to your property than, let's say, a golf ball, except for in the fact that maybe it was in a storm with 40 plus mile an hour winds, or there was a tornado nearby and other conditions that can actually accelerate this. Because if you look at a BB versus a rock, right? If I shoot you with a BB gun or throw a rock at you, or like a 4-year-old throws a rock at you, obviously the BB gun being small is going to impale you and cause more damage than a 4-year-old throwing a rock at you, depending on where they hit you, right? Depends on the trajectory. Is it down? Is it up? Is it at an angle? There's so many things that go into the science of hail, and that's what we're talking about here. But before we dive into that, I want to go through a few things, some notes I've kind of regarding types of materials that may be at your property that contribute to the damage itself or the claims that you're going to be making relative to the hail itself. So let's dive into the materials. Let's look at other factors. And then we're going to look at signs that your roof or your property has, in fact, been damaged by hail. So a couple different things, right? There's many different types of roof cladding. As a licensed general contractor, someone who has managed more than tens of thousands of insurance claims with billions in actual damages, I can tell you that the type of material on your roof is a significant issue as it relates to this. And it's a variable that we must understand. So you have three tab shingles, architectural shingles. Sometimes you have single tab shingles. If those are still on your property, you're probably finding it pretty hard to get insurance. But again, some of your rural areas, you might still see actual single tab shingles. But mostly we're seeing architectural or 3-tab shingles on a roof. What they're made out of, is it made out of fiberglass, cedar? Is it fiber cement? Is it flat concrete tiles that you have on your roof? Do you have concrete S tiles? Do you have a metal roof? Sometimes we see concrete tiles, whether they're S or flat tiles, hold up better than your metal. And sometimes when there's dings and dents inside your metal roof, we have seen insurance companies just take the position that, well, it's just because there's a dent in it doesn't mean it's actually damaged. But if you actually do look at the material sheets for your manufacturers of metal roofs, they may in times disagree with it. So it's very important. Now, just if a hail was falling and there's no other variables associated with it, there are certain limitations to the damages that we may expect for these types of roof materials. So for instance, a 3-tab shingle, looking at, can be damaged by a hail that is 1 inch in diameter or smaller. So again, very sensitive to hail. and something that you need to be cognizant of. And obviously, if it's a single tab shingle, something that's applied right to the deck sometimes, it obviously might require even less than that to cause damage to those roof structures. But again, if there's no other variables associated with it in studies, what they have found is 1 inch or less, and you're going to see damage to your three tab shingles. If you have your fiberglass, your cedar shingles, your fiber cement or flat tiles, what science is showing us is about 1.25 inches in diameter is what it may take to actually cause damage to those roofs. Again, with no other variables, wind speeds and other types of conditions, tornadic activity, shifting directions of winds, and other things that may contribute to it, right? So, and then heavy wood shakes. We may see these in some of the cooler climate areas, or thicker fiberglass shingles. They do make a thicker type material that may be able to use it with ice damming and things like that. Looking at about 1.5 inches or more, again, on its own, falling, no other contributing variable that may accelerate it, the angle in which it's the pitch of the roof, things like that. I'm just talking about direct fall. So this is the minimum criteria for causing damage to those roofs. Now, if you were to have, like I said, the analogy I gave between the pellet gun or the BB gun versus a 4-year-old throwing a rock, again, the trajectory, the steepness of your roof, the angle of the wind speed itself, the sheer quantity is another big part of it. Obviously, because as it just continues, the length of time of the storm, another important variable. So wind speed, the shape of the actual hail, right? So I'm showing you right now 2 examples that we most often see in comparisons that meteorologists like to use because it's something relevant, right? So this kind of fits in my hand here, right? So this is your golf ball size, and this is your tennis ball. And we see a lot of reports just recently, actually, in tennis. I apologize. Let me change that. Texas, talking about tennis ball size. They actually saw a tennis ball size hail more recently. It's been reported that during Hurricane Beryl that there was 1.75 inches were reported in some areas. So just think about that as relevant to a golf ball and your tennis ball. So keep those things in mind. Now, again, wind speed, the shape of it, right? If it's a nice round ball, it actually may cause more damage than something that's more fragmented that may slow down on impact or may shatter and fall apart as it hits the hard surfaces. Something that's more compact, something that's more round, that's indicative of actually certain storm conditions in the atmosphere that created that hail. So it's very important to understand how the hail is actually created, the density of that hail relative to its shape and its composition, and what it might actually do to your actual property. And I've talked a lot about the actual roof surfaces themselves, but on roofs, we know we have vents. We have HVAC rooftop equipment. We have solar panels. We have satellite dishes. You have many other apparatus that are actually affixed to your roof that you need to be cognizant of. Sometimes you have a slope roof that hits a flat section of the roof. Those roof materials are made of very different things. You might have a single ply in the flat deck, or let's say you have a built-up or a modified bitumen system, maybe multiple plies. Maybe it's a re-roof, meaning they went over an existing roof. Many variables here to consider. That's why we've titled this The Science of Hail, right? We got to consider what something of this size or smaller may cause damage to your actual property, and then how to make that claim. And it's understand how those impacts of that actual damage on your property should be handled and understood by experts. And again, the condition of your property prior to a storm, what might have contributed to the actual damages. Was there hail followed by rain or sleet or other icy conditions or winter-like effects that may be contributing factors to it in that same storm system? For instance, in Hurricane Beryl, we know we had super low pressure, which is going to create an immense amount of pressure on the actual structure of your property and all of the fasteners where all of the materials meet in your caulk joints and your ridge lines. And then on top of it, you had extremely high wind speeds coming at many different angles, right? It could be it could be east to west, then turns as the eye passes over and go west to east again. You could be on the fringe area where you might have a circular type of wind. You might have a tornado touchdown. All of these are contributing factors to it that might have occurred during the storm in which the hail fell. So again, hail may not be the isolated issue, But we know at a minimum in studies that if you had a actual piece of hail that fell at a certain prescribed amount of height and it hit these particular type of materials, at a minimum, they will cause damage to those types of materials. Things to look for, right? Dents and dings, I've mentioned it. One of the most telltale signs of hail impacting your roof, whether it is asphalt shingle or metal or tile or concrete tile or anything else, looking for dents and dings. But again, you have other apparatus affixed to your actual property. So make sure you inspect those as well, because that might be actually more relevant. And I tell people all the time, when you come into a property and you start to look, your eyes need to, I will air quote this, adjust to the conditions, right? The sun may be shining at a certain angle, not creating shadows, so everything might just look a little flat. The picture you took might not show what you see in person, so you have to go from another angle. Make sure you're looking at these things, at a particular time of day where the sun, is in the golden hour, right? Between like 4 and 6 when it's just setting and it casts that beautiful hues across. Well, that may actually highlight certain areas on your roof that may have been impacted or equipment. But if you look at the equipment and you see it there, and then maybe look back at your roof, you may also see it or some contributing factors to the damages that you're being claiming. So again, look around. Gutters. Gutters is another one. It's usually made from some sort of thin aluminum extruded material. Window frames. If you do have aluminum window frames, look at the frames, inspect the frames of the actual outside of the property. There's a lot of focus on the roof. Obviously, it's the largest area that may be directly impacted, the most obvious area. But again, walk the property, look for it. Dings or splatter marks on roof vents, gutters, roof flashings, and other roof penetrations, cracked or broken windows, damaged siding, holes in underlayment and sheathing, worn out caulking around doors and windows. Again, these storms sometimes bring with it changes in pressure. That pressure may have worn out that window and caused it to bounce and move in a way that it's destroyed the seals of the mechanical devices that lock or allow the window to move up and down. That could be if you have skylight windows, check those as well. Look around the caulked areas to see if there's been any damage to those. Blistering paint, something, a little bit more scientific. The impact occurs, moisture is pushed into the surface of the paint or the roof itself, can create blistering. Loosening downspouts or plastic gutters, also something very, very important to make sure that you're aware of and that you fully understand. I've gotten into a little bit of the science of it, so here's a cool little diagram, right? Shows you on screen right here, you can see it above me here, shows you kind of how the convection systems work to creating that, which can lead to different shapes of hail and size, and also trajectory, the way in which it falls when it allows it, when that hail escapes that system and actually makes its way towards your property and causes the damage. But in between leaving the convection system and actually being picked up by wind and then being pushed at your property, or did it fall straight and it's very low wind speeds relative to the size of the actual hail? So through some vector analysis or further meteorological analysis, you can determine the speed at which the hail was traveling, just like how they were able to determine the distance in which a bullet or a projectile can travel. Meteorologists, science can tell us at what speed this stuff was traveling to then look at the evidence and damage at a property to be able to determine, in fact, it was caused by that storm. Now, not all of this is not necessary in order to make claims, but for your businesses or community associations or your homes, it's important that you understand that a lot goes into this, and it's not just about the size of the hail. We get a lot of conversation around the size of the hail. Oh, it was only a half-inch hail. That can't cause damage. Oh, it was only an inch, and you have concrete. It wasn't the inch and a half or inch and a quarter. But again, if it was traveling at 40-plus mile an hour, and it was coming at a 20 or 30 degree, and your slope of your roof is a 9.3, it's important that you understand those things and that you collect that information and evidence, and so that in the event that your insurance company decides that it does not want to pay on your claim, that you understand how those things are done. All right, so some of the claims as it relates to hail, when it comes to wind and hail, this is a little chart here I want to show you from 2006 to 2010. As you can see here, hail is typically top 10, almost always top 10. And what you see here is in the diagram above me here, just right about here. It's kind of right, falls right kind of in the middle as far as the rankings go from 2006 to 2010. And what you see here, as you can tell, is these are the homeowner losses ranked by claim severity. And they put some sort of dollar figures around these aggregates. Now, this is what the industry is reporting, so take it for what it is. But that's kind of where wind and hail kind of fall. And I hate the fact that they lump these things together and then use the conjunction and. Wind is obviously not hail, and you have wind coverage, wind storm. You have hurricanes, you have tornadoes, other things that have conditions that have wind in them. But they've lumped wind and hail together. This is a report from III. So it kind of gives us them. So that's 2006. I just want to kind of show you where we're at in today's market as it relates to these types of claims. Why? Because there's many different components. There's frequency of claim, because we're definitely seeing an uptick in natural disasters and catastrophes, but we're also in hyperinflation and some market conditions that are leading to increased values and losses. So it's important to understand kind of where these claims fall as far as setting your expectations when you do have these losses. Now, this is for a homeowner. So for your business owners and community associations out there, it's just kind of good information to understand. I will show you some of the commercial data here in a minute. All right, so I showed you that. Now let's look at the 2018 to 2022, right? So again, kind of right there in the sweet spot, finds itself kind of in the middle, but you can see those dollars numbers have definitely gone up. Something very important, something to understand, that these claims are worth more money today than they were from 2006, 2010. So 2018, 2022, definitely seeing an uptick in those dollar values. Keep that stuff in mind. Make sure that you are aware these claims are right. So if you had a loss, let's say 2010, and that's your beacon, or that's your basis of your knowledge information. Oh man, I remember when I had a hail claim on this roof and we collected $20,000. Well, look, these values have substantially increased. I'll flash up the prior one again, right? Wind hail right here, we're looking at 4 digits. Wind to hail right here, we're looking at 5. So keep that stuff in mind. Now, moving to some of your commercial related losses. First, let's look at the top ranking, top 10 type of commercial losses that are experiencing. Now, you can see at the top here, at the way top, I'll bring this hand in here and kind of point that direction, right? That works better. All right. At the top, fire. Fire is huge, right? When it comes to commercial losses, it's actually just the sheer dollar values. They're not talking about frequency of claim. But as you can see, hail is on that list, right? Hail's up there. It's on that list. It's something that can be, it's in number 2. Natural catastrophes, all right? And it's right here. Natural catastrophes, you can see hail on that list. It's a major contributing factor for commercial-related losses. So make sure when you're experiencing a storm that you have the information you need and you understand the signs behind the storm, because a lot of times in these claims process, we see insurance companies focus on what? The size. They're not looking at the other contributing factors for that storm and what has caused damage to your property. And it's all very important to making these claims. And why is this relevant to Florida and our Texas and other coastal areas? Why? Hurricane Beryl. Hurricane Beryl set records in many, many different ways. Category 5, earliest storm recorded, was a Category 1 when it hit the Houston area, causing billions and more dollars in damages, devastating the Caribbean as a massive storm, but brought with it hail. Many storms do, but it's not talked about a lot. We see it frequently because why? We're insurance claims experts. We handle thousands of claims a year. We've managed more than $1 billion in loss, and we can do that for you as a community association or business owner. If this information was interesting to you, or you want to know more about what we can do for you, make sure you subscribe, like us on all our social media platforms. We want to make sure that you have the information you can use when you experience a loss. And the best way to make sure that your community association is protected or your business has what it needs in the event of a loss is to contact GlobalPro. Check us out online at GlobalPro.com or all of our social media platforms. We're everywhere. And we have so much video content on YouTube. If you haven't checked it out already, there's so many different topics. We bring on other industry experts, but we are experts ourselves. I'm a licensed general contractor, a licensed insurance agent, licensed adjuster. I testified in federal and state court. And so many of our team here at GlobalPro have done the same, whether in our Texas office or Florida office or anywhere in the world. We can help you in your recovery or place your next insurance policy. Let us know how we can help us. Comment down below, like us and subscribe us on all the social media platforms. And we'll see you right here next week, same time, same place on the Recovery Report Live.